around a little bit to start the meeting off. First, we're starting with recognitions. We're going to do our Schedule G, which is ID number 14199, probationary administrator appointment. This is to welcome Ms. Desiree Clemente.
Welcome, Desiree. Desiree will be appointed this evening to replace Kim Conger. Desiree went through, as all of the administrators who are here are aware, went through a rigorous process, an interview process, meeting just about everyone in the district, and again, going through a very rigorous process. And at the end of that, we are thrilled to have Desiree with us this evening and look forward to recommending her appointment effective July 1st. She will have ample opportunity to work closely with Kim through the spring months and over the summer in making for a smooth transition. So with that.
Do I have a motion? Sam, second. Chris? Any discussion?
Welcome, congratulations.
You've done so far, your vision for your role in this position, and we look forward to working with you, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All in favor? Jill?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Next, I'd like to call up Ms. Lorianne Savino to recognize the transportation poster contest winner, as well as Janice Joe.
Thank you, everybody. This is beautiful, Janice. So isn't she adorable? So every year, the National School Bus Safety Committee puts together a safety poster contest, and this year it's driving safely into the future. We had 60 of our students that entered the contest, which is a number breaking for us, so excited. And our beautiful Janice O took first place in division number 1, which is K through 2nd grade, representing the Jeffrey Ratner Seaman School. So congratulations. Chapter, Estelle sits on the safety committee, so we're very happy that he represents us there as well. And the Nassau chapter of NIAP will be giving Janice a $100 check for her appointment. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice.
Cute, right?
Sharma and Sophia Whitaker, Middle School Student Council.
Good evening, everyone here tonight.
My name is Sophia Pitsikos.
And my name is Akshita Sharma. We are your 7th grade Student Council representatives. It is a pleasure to be here on this lovely evening.
The social emotional literacy theme for the month of March is friendship, reaching out to others and sharing. Friendship is what binds people together and what they enjoy each other's company. Friends laugh and friends share good and bad times together. Remember that friends are hard to find, even harder to leave, and impossible to forget.
On Friday, March 8th, the middle school participated in a nest day. The students and staff participated in RP circles with an emphasis on the theme of friendship. Restorative circles. They help us to connect with each other and with our teachers as we talk about how things are going and ways we can thrive. Each student was assigned to a group of 12 kids from their team with a teacher. The restorative circle topic focused on what ways our friendships help us during the past year.
The student leadership groups will be facilitating cupcakes. The annual cupcake Cupcake War is on Tuesday, March 26th. The grade 7th and 8th students will be participating in the Long Island History Day this Sunday at Hofstra University.
A big thank you to Ms. Cantwell, our NHG coordinator, and our 7th and 8th grade social studies teachers. They are working around the clock for this exciting event. Good luck to all of our participants this weekend. The JMS Student Council and Community Service Clubs have had a busy few weeks. They raised $400 and collected paper towels for the Little Shelter Animal Rescue and raised $450 towards the Martha Sammartano Scholarship.
This past weekend was the MS drama Twice Upon a Time. Ms. DeLurba and Ms. Galera, the talented teachers, did a fantastic job of bringing this fractured fairy tale to life, and the audience was thoroughly entertained.
Next week, the Jericho Middle School mock trial team will be competing in their annual competition at the Suffolk County Community College. They have been busy working on this case for the past few months with Ms. DeLurba and Mrs. Setapart, and they are ready to demonstrate their impressive legal skills. Good luck to everyone here participating.
Miss Ricks, our 6th grade guidance counselor, coordinated our very first 6th grade's Got Talent. Each homeroom performed an anti-bullying song with their class. The homerooms were assigned a Disney/Pixar song, and they had to change the lyrics to a song that makes it pro-friendship and anti-bullying anthem.
The support staff served as judges to help determine the best performances. Third place was Mrs. Bachlet and Mrs. Moore's class. Second place was Mrs. Lamb's class. And the winner was Mr. Pearsall's class. It was so much fun. Again, thank you, Miss Ricks, for planning an awesome day.
We will be having an author visit with James Preller, the author of the best-selling books Bystander and Upstander, on Friday, March 22nd. We are so excited. In honor of this visit, the JMS Book Club is running a contest.
Well, that's all for now.
Have a great evening.
Thank you, Chief Judge Sophia. Next up is our high school student council, Natasha Kolbiwat.
Good evening, Mr. Gershman, board members, administration, and the Jericho community. My name is Natasha Kolbiwat. Unfortunately, my co-president and infamous host of the Walk and Talk Wednesday, Mark Sheen, is unable to join me today. But March was a very eventful month for Jericho. On March 1st, grades competed in the highly anticipated Battle of the Classes 2024. Combined with Wellness Day, students showcased their school spirit while practicing healthy mental habits. It was a lot of fun for everyone of all grades. In the grand finale, the seniors beat the juniors to be crowned battle champions. Jericho's music department hosted this year's annual Piano Nisma Festival for Nassau County. Close to 700 Jericho students participated and showcased their musical talents. The festival was a huge success because of the rigorous planning of Jericho's musical staff and the Triumph students. 41 students participated in an 8-hour drone boot camp in partnership with Erie Collective. All participants earned an FAA Trust Certificate, which is a license to fly drones residentially. Participants practiced flying drones in a simulator, learned how to fly real drones, and competed in a drone soccer competition. On March 15th and 16th, our Science Olympiad team traveled to Lemoyne College to compete in the New York State Science Olympiad. Congratulations to the team for placing 6th in the state. Congratulations to Michael Jiao for earning among the 400 top scorers in the F=ma physics exam. This score advanced him to the USA Physics Olympiad to be held on April 2nd, 2024. We wish Michael the best of luck on this exam. 5 of our science research students earned first place at the Long Island Science and Engineering Fair. They are Catherine Lee, Samara Mahiba, Manfred Lim, Sophia Tarasenko, and me, and they earned a bid to the International Science and Engineering Fair, which is the largest science fair in the world. So we wish them luck in their journey to California in May. Additional honors were earned by second place by Anjali Anand, Kiran Johar, and Lily Horowitz, and third place was earned by Matthew Wang. Our high school technology department is partnering with SEPTA to offer a robotics workshop for parents and students in grades K through 8 on March 26th from 6:30 to 7:30. March is Music in Our Schools Month and Youth Art Month. On behalf of the Music and Art Department, we want to thank the Board of Education, Superintendent of the schools, Mr. Grishman, and the Central Administrators for their support and encouragement for learning through the arts. Congratulations to musicians, performers, and creative artists who played an important role in SpongeBob the Musical. The Jazz Ambassadors, under the direction of Mr. Blutman, performed at our state capitol in honor of music education. We congratulate Emerson Wang for receiving the Senior Scholarship Award from the Art Supervisors Association and recognize the participants of the annual All-County Art Exhibit held at Clark High School on March 10th. They are Asha Wang, Dinko Chen, Bell Han, Emerson Wang, Camila Zhang, Manasvi Zenderkuri, Millie Jin Choi, Michelle Liu, Sandra Chan, Sarah Fan, Sophia Sakalis, Stephanie Zhang. Congratulations to Ashley Thittleborn for also being selected for Long Island's Best Art Exhibition. Congratulations to Ozan Wang, Joshua Chu, and Daniel Han for performing in the Chamber Music Festival at Great Neck South High School on March 21st. March 26th will be Tri-M Honor Society inductions. The Art Honor Society will have their induction ceremony on the 25th. Congratulations for Tristan Yang for earning third place in the New York State Diving Championships. Photography students will be going on an astrophotography trip with Mr. Simonelli for the first time this month to capture images of the night sky on locations on Jones Beach. Our international night was a collaboration between the language departments along with Jericho United. And the day featured student performances from Italian, Spanish, Chinese, French, and Latin Honor Society. So looking forward, most spring sport teams start their seasons this week, so best of luck to all the teams. And also on April 4th, we're holding the Hall of Fame at the Jericho Public Library, so we hope to see you there. Thank you very much for your time.
Next, I'd like to welcome Caitlin Choi back to the dais. Caitlin is our student board representative.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. So today I'll be presenting on the topic of AI in relation to student lives. So just to give you a bit of background on how I prepared this report, over the past 2 weeks I've been issuing a survey across our high school population, basically providing students with questions about their use of AI as well as how they believe it impacts their lives. So the survey was accessible to students through their school emails and Canvas inbox, and in total I received around 287 responses. So questions were generally asked on a Likert scale with options ranging from never to very often, or strongly disagree to strongly agree depending on the question. And I asked questions surrounding 4 main topic areas. So students' personal use of AI, how AI is being discussed in the classroom, students' thoughts on AI, and their beliefs on AI and academic integrity. So to start off with the first category, personal use of AI, so 76.6% of students reported having used AI in the past. So just over half of the students described not using AI for writing help, and most students have not or do not frequently use AI as a search engine, grammar check, to verify sources, in video and article summarization, or as entertainment. Although there can be some bias in these results, most respondents seem not to have integrated AI as being a regular part of their lives, although all students seem to have encountered it in the past. So the next section of my questions asked about AI in the classroom, so basically seeing how students have encountered AI in a school setting, as well as how it applies to them. So a vast majority, 95.4% of students reported hearing about AI in the classroom. And a strong majority, around 83.4% of those students said that their teachers discussed the consequences of using AI in assignments. So most students said that their teachers did not really discuss how to identify AI-generated work, and the majority of students also said that they don't believe that their teachers view AI as a valuable learning tool. And when asked what classroom students have discussed AI and then heard about it, social studies and English were the most common, at 63.8% and 87.3% respectively. However, from the results, AI seemed to have been discussed in a range of classrooms, from math to art. So afterwards, I asked students about their personal thoughts on AI and how it would impact them in the future. So a majority of the students believe that they should be taught how to use AI constructively. So this was around 65.2%. Also, the majority of students believe that knowing how to use AI would help them in the future. So around 69.4%. So in regards to thoughts on whether AI should be incorporated more into the classroom or not, students were largely evenly distributed across opinions, with the largest category being students who were relatively neutral at 30%. However, I think it's significant to note that although most students said that they felt that their teachers didn't view AI as a valuable learning tool, the majority of students also believe that it will be an important part of their futures and something they should learn more about. And the last section I asked students about was AI in relation to academic integrity. So students were presented with a diagram displaying different degrees of AI use and were asked to check the options they considered cheating. So this ranged from a student having wrote all of an assignment without consulting AI or the internet, to a student having plugged a prompt into AI, copied the response, and submitting it to their teacher. So the majority of students said that they believe that cheating began to occur when students created multiple AI responses, picked and chose the best parts, edited and submitted, with 69.1% of students believing that this is cheating. This was a turning point where students began to view AI use as cheating on the scale. So 75.9% of students believe that cheating occurred when AI created a response and the student read, edited, adjusted, and submitted the response. And 89% of students believe that cheating occurred when students plugged a prompt into AI, copied the response, and submitted. So some conclusions. So as I was collecting information for this survey and I was able to talk with people across the district, I actually learned that our school just had access to a new platform, Chat for Schools, which is an ed law compliant AI generative service, and that previously this wasn't, that teachers weren't able to use AI due to education laws, and actually the time period in which we rolled out Chat for Schools actually coincided with when I was issuing this survey. So I think it's important to note that although many students did not think that their teachers viewed AI as a valuable learning resource, it was not really also available to them before the time period in which I issued the survey. And I think it's also important to note that students clearly showed a strong interest in learning more about AI and viewed it as a really important tool, which is here to stay for their futures. So I think I really recommend to the board that they consider different ways in which students can be taught in the classroom how to use AI constructively as a helpful tool. And another recommendation I have is that considering how novel AI is as a tool this year, that next year's Board of Ed rep maybe can repeat the survey and see progress in a year. Not only see how student attitudes shift as AI becomes more prevalent in learning in schools, but also see how their attitudes toward it shift in the classroom as teachers have the ability to use AI as something to aid students in their learning. Thank you. Do you have any questions? So for me, I don't really use AI as a tool to help me in terms of doing assignments and stuff, but I have played around with it in the past to see what it can do, and I found that it's a tool that's really great at synthesizing different ideas and bringing them together. But I think I used this like around 6 months ago to play around, but at that point in time, there were also a lot of inaccuracies in terms of the information that AI conveyed to me. So I would search up different topics I was familiar with to see what it would say, for instance, different historical topics, and then the figures they attributed certain events being a part of weren't really accurate. So I found that interesting to note that although AI was a really strong generative tool, the material it generated wasn't always reliable.
Caitlin, I love the work that you did, and I really enjoyed an opportunity to talk to you about it. And again, I think one of the best recommendations that you've made is it's a relatively new tool that our kids and our staff are just becoming accustomed to. And again, I think your suggestion in terms of let's have the report done again next winter and maybe the winter after, and just see how that will change over time as more staff members, more students are utilizing different forms of AI in their daily school life, home life, work life. But thank you so much.
I actually have a question for you, Caitlin. We had a presentation about AI by Dr. Fogarty not too long ago, and he was saying that AI, the findings were that AI generally could write at a B+ level. Was that your finding too, in terms of sophistication? I mean, you mentioned about accuracy, but in terms of sophistication?
I think that varies depending on what you're using it for. Like during this process, I also had the opportunity to speak to a large range of students. And the general consensus I got after speaking to them was that although assignments could be answered using AI, it was relatively noticeable when it was, just because there's a certain style that was conveyed. And it seems that the teachers are really being able to identify that as well. So I'm not necessarily sure about the grade level in terms of like what a paper written by AI can do, especially since I haven't really played around with that much myself. But from what students have said, I think it is fairly transparent when AI is being used, especially to a teacher who is really familiar with the student's writing style, their thinking style, and stuff like that.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to PTA Council report from Allison Edelman.
Good evening, Mr. Can you hear me, right? Good evening, Mr. Grishman, Board of Ed members, Central Administration, faculty, staff, and community members. I am Allison Edelman and the President of the Jericho Joint PTA Council. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. The Jericho Joint PTA Council has had a busy month. At our last joint PTA Council, we hosted Dr. Patrick Fogarty, Director of Technology. Patrick was terrific and gave us a great education in artificial intelligence, the good and the bad. It was an engaging and hands-on lesson that opened our eyes to AI, taught us how AI can be used in our schools and how we can help our children use it at home in a positive and constructive way. Each of our units are putting together the nominating committees to build new leadership for next year. We welcome and encourage parent involvement at every level. Research has shown that students do better in school when parents are actively involved. Children generally achieve better grades, have higher test scores, and better attendance. If you have any questions about getting involved in our PTAs, please speak to your building principals and they will direct you to the right place. This past month, our PTAs have been very active. Cantiac hosted a popular Valentine's Day dance and magic show that was very well attended. Jackson had a family dance and looks forward to their multicultural night tomorrow night with special food and performances. Ratner Seaman has a community read-in during Park Week where local role models from the community come and read books to the students. At the middle school and high school this week, parent volunteers were thrilled to serve lunch to our teachers, faculty, and staff at an Asian-themed appreciation lunch. Our logo, "We are so fortunate to have you," was deeply felt by all the attendees that day. It was such a nice celebration, including all types of Asian food, Chinese, sushi, crepes, green tea, and more. It was the perfect way to say thank you to our staff and faculty. We're very appreciative for all that you do for our children. The elementary school luncheons will take place later in the year. The Joint PTA Council ran another fundraising event in the month of February. We spread the love by donating to Jericho Cares, an organization aimed at providing household items to local families in need. Thank you to each of our schools for collecting the items, and we raised $1,200. We look forward to continuing this great work again next year. We want to wish everyone a very happy Easter with your families. Thank you, and have a good night.
Moving right along, Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Again, so good to hear at this evening's meeting about all the good things that are going on in our middle school and our high school. And again, as we come through the winter into the spring season, it's a time where literally at every meeting we hear of all these incredible events that are sponsored by our students and our achievements that are sponsored by our students. And again, I think for me, it's one of the highlights of our board meetings. Wanted to share a couple of information items with you. If you were hearing some construction noise this evening, we're in the process of replacing windows in the high school building, and that's going to take place over the next several months. Again, it's not going to happen during the day when students are here, when staff is here. It's going to happen second shift. So that work has started. Again, you hear it. And in effect, what's happening is we're replacing old windows with new, much more highly efficient windows, and that is going to take place again throughout the high school over, Victor, for how much longer?
Well, it's the old part of the high school wing down the little theater side and the main office side, that's the only section, and then it's gonna loop around on the admin side. I would say 6 weeks.
Super. We all look forward to that. Also wanted to share that we are full speed ahead now with Parent Square. We're hoping that by March the 1st, we would be district-wide up and running and using Parent Square. We thank Patrick for all of his work with the implementation and the support of Denise in getting Parent Square up and running. Again, any questions, any issues that you have in getting Parent Square loaded, using Parent Square, please feel free to contact Patrick or the technology office, and they are there, ready to help and support. We, again, now, as our date gets closer to April the 8th, we're all reading about the eclipse that we all look forward to seeing. We have distributed, again, Kim Libertini has distributed instructional materials that have been shared throughout the district leading up to the eclipse. We have also purchased eclipse glasses for all of our students, so our students will be safe to, and again, I think you all appreciate, please don't look up. So therefore, we decided to go out and purchase the eclipse glasses for all of our students, and again, looking forward to hopefully an exciting educational day, although I have heard some people are praying for rain. We are not. We're looking forward to celebrating the eclipse. Just informational purposes, I was at a superintendent's meeting where this week we're sharing all of the instructional activities and the activities that districts are taking place, and the current president of the association said, you know, the next full eclipse is in 2079, and we look forward to Hank's leadership for the next eclipse. Probably not. Also wanted to announce homecoming. The dates are in the process of being advertised throughout the district. Please write down on your calendars September the 13th and September the 14th. That will be our homecoming dates this fall. And let's see, also just wanted to get a shout out, and you've heard me say this so many times, our PTAs are such a major strong point to the strength and success of our school district. We cannot give enough kudos to our PTA for the support that they continue to give us. And again, the perfect example of that was an incredible lunch this week where they shared probably the best lunch we've had ever, and they are all been so good for our middle school and high school staff. And again, I heard people coming through and saying, I only made it through twice today. But again, just not enough words of thanks for the role that our PTAs play. And again, the appreciation they show us for all of the good work that our staff does day in and day out. So again, thank you, PTA. Our enrollment report as of March the 15th is 3,381 students. That is an increase in 21 students over our last enrollment report. And with that, thank you.
A few questions, Mr. Superintendent. Would it be possible to put on the agenda for the next couple months, having Ingram and Smith look at the policies in the 7600 section, students with disabilities? Most of those policies seem to be 10 to 15 years old, except for 7610 and 7611, which by law we're required to update every 2 years. So those are mostly 23 or 22, but all the others seem to be anywhere from 5 to 20 years old, and the board does spend a fair amount of time in this area. So if we can have those looked at and perhaps come up with a bunch of those to be updated.
I know that Dr. Chupo is looking at the next set of board policies to look at. I'm sure he'll work with Steve Goodstat and with Chris in bringing those forward over the next couple of months. No problem.
Great. Second, there was, well, I guess, easiest one, electric vehicle charging stations. Is this deal dead, or?
We are still having discussions with the company that originally offered, and it is not dead yet, but we're still trying to make it happen.
Got it. And then finally, for, not this month, but next month or a work session, I guess Newsday, which I know you really much more religiously than I do, but Newsday had an article about personal finance courses and potentially making that mandatory. Can we just get an update at some point in a future meeting about where we stand, what we offer, what's required, and how we would adjust to that?
Okay. We're more than happy to do that, Sam. You'll know that there are pieces of financial literacy that is blended into many of our courses in the business department. There are discussions that are taking place in our district and other districts whether it makes sense for that to be a standalone course, an additional course, and we are currently having those conversations for future consideration.
And then finally, I got a text saying that if we could please update the policy manual for our newly adopted 1350 and 1351. They said just so,
The ones in this.
you don't know 1350 and 1351? Ethics and civility.
Civility. Surely.
I know you're familiar with the concept, just not the policy. Anyway, thank you. That's it, thanks. And I guess Dr. Schuth will be next month here to give us an update on residency certification.
Again, Ben will give us an update every month, but I know that the process is unfolding smoothly and unfolding well.
Thank you.
I do. Oh, I wanted to get you. I'm happy to go.
I am done.
Something serious. Is this something? My fellow board trustees, several weeks ago, a community member informed me that a Jericho Central Office administrator surreptitiously recorded a private conversation of which that administrator had no part between me and a Jericho High School student following our February Board of Ed meeting. I do not know this administrator's intent in doing this. I do not know if this administrator was acting on the suggestion or at the direction of someone more senior or on their own volition. I do not know exactly how long this administrator has been taping me, but I do know that a brief recording from 12 months ago was recently circulated by this person. As you can imagine, I was appalled by this behavior, particularly as it impacted a Jericho High School student. Unfortunately, I could not be entirely surprised. As a school board trustee for the past 32 months, I have at times disagreed with the administration on governance and accountability and other concerns. That is no secret. Raising troubling issues and asking uncomfortable questions of the administration is a board member's responsibility. And on this board, it is a role that I am most often expected and forced to perform. This does not make me the most popular person in the room. However, I never imagined that such unscrupulous actions by an administrator would be the consequence of my fulfilling my board duties. I never expected covert third-party recordings, a violation of trust and ethics, if not also district policy and possibly New York state law, would be the results. If these recordings are another attempt to silence me and stop me from vigorously representing the interests of Jericho residents, it will fail. To the dozens of parents, students, and yes, teachers who have spoken with me privately about an issue or concern on the promise that it remains confidential, I apologize if our conversation or your identity has been compromised by this administrator's dishonest third-party recording. Now that I'm aware of the problem, I will work hard to ensure that any discussion, whether after board or PTA meetings, at school sports or other district events, is not conducted in proximity to any Jericho administrators. If these recordings are an attempt to deter community members, residents, parents, teachers, and students from discussing with me their issues and concerns, I am hopeful it will fail. I do not believe this administrator's underhanded behavior is consistent with the principles and culture of the Jericho School District. And I certainly expect it is not representative of the values the district instills in our students. As a school board trustee and as a parent of 3 current students, I will continue to work to ensure this remains true. Thank you.
anyone I guess from administration have any comment or can shed any light upon this? Is anyone familiar with?
This is the first I'm hearing of it. Obviously, we will take Sam's comments and review them with council.
This is pretty serious. I would like, Mr. Powers, if it's possible, for you, as the board lawyer, to review this, speak, I guess you can have a private conversation, Sam, or with all of us to figure out what happened.
Sure. This is the first I'm hearing of it as well.
Me too.
It's quite unusual to hear something of this alleged gravity to come to us in a public board meeting. I usually receive something like this as it's happening, so I can look into it immediately. It's now being presented to me. I will look into it for you. I will play right down the middle and come up with an analysis and a recommendation to the board.
Thank you.
Sure.
Similarly, this is the first I'm hearing of it, so Sam, I think, your allegations need to be investigated. But again, knowing nothing more than what you've said, I agree. I think Chris needs to look at it, and we'll take it from there.
I appreciate that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I just wanted people to be aware that when they're coming to talk to me, that's why I might be a little jumpy when they come to talk to me about their issues now. And I wanted board members to be aware because I don't know definitively that I'm the only person this is happening to, though I would assume probably.
Any further comments on that? No? Now we're going to move into the business portion of the meeting. We'll have to recommended actions or approval of minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education make any necessary corrections and move the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting dated February 8th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Done. Any discussion? All in favor?
I vote yes.
Thanks, Joe.
Bill's there. You're there.
All right, moving on to the opportunity for the public to be heard. Please note, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please tell us your name and affiliation if you are representing a specific group. If you would like your statement to be included in our board minutes, you must hand in a copy of your remarks to our district clerk, Victor Manuel, immediately before speaking. As always, public discussion on matters relating to staff and students at which their reputation, privacy, or right to due process, or those of others could in some way be violated, is prohibited.
Good evening. I have to introduce myself again. I am Allison Edelman. I am the president of the Joint PTA Council. I would like to take the opportunity to respond to accusations that were made by a board member at the February 8, 2024 meeting about the Joint PTA Council's application to use district facilities under policy number 3270 to host a Meet the Candidate event on May 14th. During that meeting, a board member urged the superintendent to deny the Joint PTA Council's application and implied that council, especially council leadership, are unable to provide a fair and nonpartisan Meet the Candidate event. I quote, "The board's concern should be the use of district facilities for an event that will be viewed as strongly partisan." It was also stated that the event under our leadership does not offer a level playing field for all candidates, and that perhaps we owe an apology to Mr. Surratt, Mr. Lynn, and Mr. Wozniak for an unfairness that may have been perceived during that event. It is our opinion that we, the Joint PTA Council, are the ones who deserve an apology for this board member's insinuation that we cannot host a fair Meet the Candidate night. The board member's allegation is meritless, and he fails to provide any actual instance of unfairness, partiality, or bias that occurred at last year's event or any other, nor can he. Meet the Candidate events have been sponsored by the Joint PTA Council in this district as a public service for at least 25 or more years. The event is nonpartisan and is conducted entirely by a neutral third party, the League of Women Voters, as recommended in the New York State PTA Resource Guide. All candidates are invited to participate and are given equal time to speak. The League, not the Joint PTA Council, decides what questions are to be asked and moderates the event. The Joint PTA Council's only role is to invite the League, convey the League's rules to the candidates, and physically collect index cards with questions from the audience and hand them to the moderator. In no way, shape, or form does council have any meaningful involvement in how the event unfolds or how it is conducted by the league. Of course, the board members should know this, having participated in multiple previous Meet the Candidate events. Having no evidence of any actual instance or partiality or unfairness at a Meet the Candidate event, whether it be last year's event or any other, the board member asserts that there is an appearance of partiality based on alleged endorsements and campaigning by council members and financial contributions to candidates, presumably candidates in last year's Board of Ed election. As private citizens, PTA members are of course allowed to support candidates and to make financial contributions to candidates of their choice, as long as we're not using our PTA titles or affiliations in any ads, flyers on behalf of a candidate, as stated in the New York State PTA Resource Guide. The board member admits this. Neither I nor any member of council leadership acted improperly. As the current president of the Joint PTA Council, I have served as a leader at this school in this district for a combined 18 years. Members of council have served or are currently serving at every school level in this district and have selflessly donated their time to improve the lives of every student in this district in acts of public service. The sponsoring of the Meet the Candidate event is an act of public service, whereby candidates are given the opportunity to talk about community issues. It was highly offensive to each and every one of us to be disrespected in a public forum regarding the integrity of our leadership. More importantly, we should, as a community, PTA, and school board, focus our attention on the betterment of our school and our children's welfare and dedicate our focus, resources, and effort to matters that directly impact their daily lives, as opposed to these distractions of resisting the outcomes of prior elections that are clearly in our rearview mirror. We are better together, and we can accomplish so much more by working together. We ask at this time that the Board of Ed grant permission to use the district facility to host our Meet the Candidate event on May 14th. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me tonight. I recently shared this statement at a closed PTA meeting and was encouraged by my PTA colleagues to share it again at this meeting. So for those of you who heard it, I'll share it again. Much of it is the same. There's a little bit at the end, for sure. My name is Robin Mermelstein. I'm the president of the middle school PTA. I have two daughters, an 8th grader and a 5th grader, and I'm the chief marketing officer of a very large women's healthcare company. Like everyone, I have a full plate, but I carve out time for my community because it's important to me. I believe it's important to get involved, to speak up, to be a beacon for positive change, to show respect for my neighbors, to support my children and their future in this school district. And it's important to me because I know as a mother, I'm modeling behavior that I want my daughters to see. I want them to see a strong woman who has thoughtful opinions and expresses them empathetically and respectfully with my colleagues, with my neighbors, with everyone. I have streamed more board meetings than I attend in person, but I haven't missed one. I used to joke that I make popcorn and I stream them on my television, and that they're better than anything that I could be watching on Netflix. But over the past few months, things have really taken a turn, and I'm growing extremely concerned about the behavior of the board is having irreversible damage on our school district. I've consistently observed the tone of the way people speak to each other, interrogating, bullying. I've seen catty whispering on the dais when someone steps up to speak, defeatist looks on people's faces, skittish body language. By the end of the meeting, I see a combination of exhaustion and fright and worry on many faces and a whole lot of empty seats. It feels like we've lost the community. The district is often losing prospective candidates that would typically want to work here. And we're starting to lose the reputation that our administrators and our teachers have built. And the last thing that's going on in these rooms is modeling good behavior. But there is a silver lining. I truly believe it can get better. People are watching. The press is documenting the drama that happens in these rooms. And we have an audience. So I say that we give them a new show. So I ask everyone to consider this. At the next board meeting, smile. Thank people for coming. Make points, but be brief. Don't be shy. Please speak up passionately and respectfully. Remember why everyone is sitting on that dais. Pause before speaking and remind yourself that there are children in the audience, maybe your children in the audience. Show them how to speak their minds clearly and thoughtfully, how to disagree civilly. Show them what empathy looks like. Lead with grace, and let's get back to doing the good work that we all need to do. And this is the new part for those that have heard this. And for the community, for everyone that's sitting here, this school district was built on partnership between our students, parents, teachers, and administrators, and the board. In the coming weeks, you will start to see existing and new candidates for the board begin campaigns. Listen to the candidates. Hear what they have to say, ask questions, come to board meetings, come to PTA meetings, get involved. Let's all refocus on what's really important, this incredibly special school district and our community. Do I have to introduce myself? I'm Julie Feigenbaum. I have 4 kids in the district. Sorry, 1 just graduated. I recently started a change.org campaign to see if anyone would be interested in discussing the potential to delay the Jericho Middle School start time. Incidentally, I didn't have to work as hard as I thought I would, and I was able to gain 170 signatures in a matter of days. That was without sending mass school-wide emails. With that support in tow, I took things one step further and asked numerous medical and mental health professionals for their opinions. Pediatricians, therapists, social workers, neuropsychologists. They each, with no uncertainty, explained to me in their own professional terms the importance of sleep for growing middle school students. Yes, middle school, not high school. They discussed kids' circadian rhythms and how they work, as well as the mental and physical health components. It's extensive. There's documented and proven research to back their claims. I provided just a fraction of these supportive articles to Mr. Grishman during our meeting on March 5th. To further my search, I asked the opinion of local contacts who are on their school boards, and they explained that after a lot of time and planning, they unanimously agreed to change their school start time. The physical and mental health of their students is paramount, they explained. I didn't stop there. I asked friends who grew up in Jericho just as I did if they remember what time Jericho Middle School started. They said they remembered leaving their house before the sun rose, but more specifically, before 7 a.m. And just for reference, these friends entered middle school in the year 1977, 46 years ago. I don't know anyone older than that, so maybe you can tell me what the school was.
Hey, watch it, watch it.
That got me wondering, how is it possible that after nearly 50 years of this painfully early start time, has the Jericho School District not progressed, developed, or evolved? We have added incredible things such as turf fields and extra wings, new windows, STEM programs, technology departments, lunch programs, robotics. We've added flower pots and parking lots, theater programs, multicultural programs, and I can go on and on because we all know this school district is incredible. All of which directly add work to our children's agendas. But deeper than this, we have added a tremendous amount of academic and athletic and social pressures on our kids, and I feel we've given the children nothing in return. Social media was obviously not around in 1977, so it wasn't a problem. But it certainly is today, and it seems that it's going nowhere. It's here to stay. So much surrounding our children has evolved, but the timing of our school has not. A simple extra 30 to 45 minutes of sleep, that's the utter least we can do to help them push through their already challenging days that more often than not end up much later than we as parents would like them to. I can take this matter further by explaining to you the damage this issue causes on immediate family members but for now, I just prefer to keep this student specific. Mr. Grishman, I went into our meeting with high hopes, kind of imagining that you would agree that this matter was super relevant, case closed. But in the brief time that we had together, I listened to you explain the matters. You were in agreement with most of my claims, but added that this was a bus issue, a logistical issue, a space issue, and a financial issue, all rolled into one. You even asked me for my help to find a solution to this problem that admittedly exists. However, all I could think of was how quickly you came up with figures, dollar amounts, and construction terms. It seemed to me that you had already done your research. You didn't need my help that you so humbly asked for, which further led me to wonder how many years has this matter been on the table? How many past and present Jericho parents have expressed their concerns? When will this matter be given attention it deserves? We know mental health problems are on the rise, so why not really dig as deep as you possibly can and see if we can give our children the gift of extra sleep. Not only do they need it, but for all the hard work that they do, they deserve it. I'm happy to resubmit the articles and supportive documents that you may need to reopen this issue. Please consider delaying the start time of the middle school. I should not be the one to come up with the solution. I can only share with you what parents and other community members and their students are going through on a daily basis. Thank you.
Robin, did you want to hand in your?
Mrs. Feigenbaum, could you forward some of those articles to the board?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
Sam, I have a bunch of them, more than happy to share them with the board, and appreciated the time that we spent. One cannot disagree that a starting time later than 7:25 or 7:30 in the morning is a healthier start time for our students. I will also tell you that in Nassau County, this issue has been hotly debated for the last several years as more and more research has come out. Probably 75% of that research geared to high school start times, because just about all the high schools in Nassau County begin at 7:15, 7:30, 7:40. So again, much discussion has taken place at every level. However, no high school in Nassau County has changed their start time, even though it has been hotly discussed. If I had a magic wand, I would do it in a heartbeat. However, there are significant constraints, which I explained to Julianne. Firstly, if we were to have all of our students on site for 9 periods a day, currently we have students on site for 11 periods a day. So we maximize the use of our facility. First and second period, the first 2 periods a day, and the last 2 periods a day. If we lost that overlap, we would not have enough music rooms, we would not have enough gym space, we would not have enough science space to accommodate 2,000 students in a 9-period day. So in order for us to do that, we would have to entertain a major construction project to add additional classrooms to our school buildings. Issue number 1. Issue number 2, we would, in order to have all of our middle school and high school students arrive at the same time at 9 o'clock in the morning, we would need probably 16 or 18 additional buses. We would have to purchase or lease buses that are not available. We would have to hire bus drivers. And again, as I shared, currently, the last number Lori and I saw was that we had 4 routes that were still uncovered and covered by substitute bus drivers.
That's correct.
So again, the shortage of bus drivers is a significant issue as well. I don't see a solution that is in the realm of possibility that's fiscally possible. Again, in order for it to happen, there would have to be a major building project, and in terms of transportation, given the current state of transportation, bus drivers, buses in Long Island, I don't see that happening. However, I would entertain any discussion from the Board of Education to more thoroughly look at either option A or B to make this happen. But again, the fiscal implication is great. Answer number 1. The reality is that any school district that has more than 3,000 kids, more than 2,500 kids, is running on a 3-segment day where elementary school, middle school, and high school are all picked up at different times. That is the reality of transportation. Somebody, in order for us to transport in 3 tiers, some group of students has to start at 7:30, and one lucky group of students has to start at 9 o'clock. Again, looking at the research that I've reviewed, while there is much research out there, it really gears more toward the high school student having a later start time than it does the middle school student. However, after saying that, I still agree that it would be far better for our middle school kids to start later than 7:30. It's physically impossible. One group of kids in every school district, look at every school district on Long Island that has, let's say, more than 2,500 kids, every one of those school districts has 3 tiers of transportation. Somebody is coming to school at an ungodly hour. In most districts, it's high school. In Jericho, it's the middle school. But I appreciate your efforts, and I appreciate your feelings, and I don't disagree with any of them.
Hey, could I just add one thing about that? Having been around on
I
this.
think a board member was speaking.
Go ahead.
I think a board member was speaking.
Oh, sorry.
All right, I was just gonna quickly, couple of ideas, well, not couple, I only really have one idea, but I don't wanna like sit here and bore everyone, because obviously my idea may mean nothing. I think what I wanna say is, first of all, thank you, Julie, I hear you, I agree with you, I support you. I have 2 middle schoolers right now, it's extremely difficult on the students, the children, and extremely difficult on the parents and whoever's getting the children ready in the morning. And for the parents that have a elementary student and a middle school student and a high school student, and they're dealing with a time span of 2-3 hours getting their kids out the door, it's torture, because there's, you get one ready, you wait, then you get the other one ready, then you wait. It's like, you don't have a life for the first few hours of the morning, and then they're home at 2:15 in the afternoon, which is terrible also. But what I wanted to say is, Mr. Gershman, you're absolutely right, and we've had this conversation in the
Numerous
past.
times.
Yeah, numerous times, right? Like, it's as like the second I came on the board, it was like the first thing I hounded you with. But obviously we had other things that were also very important, and so, you know, I took what you said and I kind of moved past it, but I was giving it a little more thought, and I thought, if we're just talking about minutes, right, we're not talking about delaying by an hour. I definitely agree with you with the high school thing. You don't touch high school. High school has to stay as it is, but how do we gain just extra few minutes for the middle schoolers, because that's where, you know, the problem starts. So if we're just talking about minutes, why can't we're just crunching numbers at this point. Shave off a minute per period. You gain 10, 11 minutes right there. Shave off another minute for the elementary, you gained another 10, 11 minutes. Now you have 20 minutes. 20 minutes is a lot, guys, when you're getting up at 6:15 now instead of 6:15, the kids are getting up at 6:35, the sun might start rising, and it's just more of a natural body clock thing. Just to crunch numbers, may I ask the administration to look at, my idea, I could be completely off, completely impossible, but in my head, we're just talking about, just give us a little bit, just give us something, like a bite of, you know, whatever, a bite of the cookie, just to, you know, help out with the situation. So can I ask the administration to really very seriously, not just for the public, but really seriously look at this? Is this a possibility?
We will take a look at that in terms of school day. I know that Lori Ann, in terms of running transportation, will have a lot to add in terms of having sufficient time to do a route safely and return to do another route safely, number one. Number two, I did have an interesting comment from a parent in the district. Is it okay for my kid to be late every day? We did not support that notion, surprisingly so.
But if we're just, once again, if we're talking about minutes and not changing anything with the high school, Or, but right now, the high school is at 9 a.m. sharp, I forgot.
We will look at the length of the day.
Just a few minutes in each school, you
But-
gain something.
But again, I'm gonna start with, while we look at that internally, we also need to look to Lorianne in terms of the impact of, again, a 10-minute later starting time. What's the impact on elementary starting time? The buses getting from middle school to elementary school to high school. If Lorianne loses 5 minutes or 10 minutes in each segment, will she still be able to run the buses in a safe and timely fashion?
Lorianne, pretty please.
The only thing I was gonna reiterate what Hank said. There is not time in between middle school and elementary school and high school to shave off minutes. Would it work for around here or out there? Possibly, but for 80% of the bus routes throughout the district, it would not work for. The buses are not sitting on the side of the road waiting to pick up elementary kids after they drop off the middle school. It's a very tight window, so I just wanted to reiterate what Hank said.
Just for the people, sorry.
Go ahead, Sam.
For the people who sometimes luckily are out of this problem, can you just remind everybody who's listening what the start times are for middle school, elementary, and high school?
Sure. Elementary first bell, check.
The middle school is 7:20, elementary, we have to get them there by 8:15, high school, they're in here by 8:50.
Again, that's transportation time, Sam.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Savina, you said 7:20, 8:15, 8:50?
That's the bus times.
The best times, thank you.
Yes.
I think
And then also so in addition to that, Sam, and Jen, there is a requirement that Victor goes through each year to report to the New York State Education Department the actual number of minutes our students are in session on a school year. So there also is a state ed requirement. Victor, how close on our current schedule does that run? I know that that's on one of your state ed forms.
Yeah, actually, the middle school is the tightest as far as the number of minutes, because you have to take into account in between the bell periods, you have to deduct that. You have to deduct lunch periods. So I know the middle school is already the tightest. So for example, if it's 990 hours, we're getting like 990 something hours, depending on if we have snow days or not in that particular year. It's tight as far as the allowable minutes.
Okay, so, once again, I don't wanna bore, so I guess, can we continue this discussion? I guess maybe do a work session, however you wanna do it, publicly, or if you wanna we can circulate some ideas internally and then present it to the public, either way.
I think I wanted to thank Mrs. Fagman for bringing this up. This is certainly something that's on the forefront of discussion. I, for one, attended there was a talk up in Syracuse 2 years ago at New York State School Boards about this. And again, listen, as a parent who's now had 2 kids, go through the middle school, one of whom is currently there. I mean, I see him bleary-eyed in the morning, and at the time changes, and it's tough. I mean, truth be told, if we started later, he'd probably stay up later. But that's all kidding aside, I think it's a really valid point. We talk about our kids' well-being and reducing stress, and I think all of these things could certainly, in part, be addressed by potentially starting later. So if we can come up with a creative way to do it, I would totally support that. I would, though, tread very lightly with respect to shortening instructional time. These kids are already trying to digest a ton of material in a relatively short period of time. So I think we've got to come up with a novel way of doing this if we can do it without decreasing instructional time.
Just 60 seconds,
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying, I would
60
never.
seconds, 5 days a week, and then for courses that don't meet every day
Okay,
necessarily.
but sleep is super important. Look,
Totally,
once
Jen,
again, this
I
is,
agree.
right, like, everything is
We're on
important.
the same side of this. If there's
Right,
a way
yeah.
to do this, by all means.
And my kids go to sleep late anyway, and with sports, no matter what, they're still going to sleep late.
Yeah,
Lorianne,
I just want to wish Costello luck on this new project.
Yes. April 19th, now, I do want to say that we talk about this all the time, and we reroute your buses every single year. We get rid of the stops that are not relevant for the incoming students. We have to manage traffic volume that has increased. We've had to add minutes to the routes to get the kids to school on time, so there's all these other factors that are beyond the layperson's thought in how the process works. And there's not a lot of wiggle room, especially in the afternoon. So if we're changing the morning, we have to look to the afternoon, and then we have to talk to Mankiewicz about office athletic buses. So just those are other pieces to the puzzle.
The most simple, thank you, Mrs. Vito. What prevents us from just starting the day 20 minutes later for everybody?
Moving the entire day back by 20 minutes?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason, I just was curious what it is.
Right now, the end of the high school day, Sam, right now butts up against, and very, very tight in terms of our athletic schedule.
That's what I thought, but every sport team my kids have now, the games are like at 5 or at 7 o'clock at night. So I was confused, like, their lacrosse game's going on starting at 7 o'clock at night, so I'm not sure how 20 minutes in the morning is affecting a 7 o'clock lacrosse game.
There are many games that start, Sam, there are many games that start immediately after school.
Okay, I knew there was an easy answer, because I keep getting different answers, like other schools, I'm told, are having trouble, and Mrs. Savino knows, are having trouble getting transport for their sports teams. That's why some of our games are starting so late at some point.
That is correct with some of the athletic teams, but we do start our athletics buses. We're on the lineup by 3:15. We're covering high schools with other drivers, so we do run athletics starting at 3:15. But yes, you are correct. We do an amazing job.
And we are already closing high school.
Exactly. Our kids have to go in the morning for extra help in the high school to accommodate for sports afterwards as well. So I don't know how we move that.
I knew there was an easy answer, I just.
And I'm sure that Mr. Viderber would fight against us shortening the teacher day if we had any of those discussions.
We just have enough to try and teach the kids.
Mr. Check, this is public, sorry.
No.
Good evening, I'm Lynn Weissman. I've been a Jericho resident for more than 19 years. Over the last decade, I've been involved with the PTA or PTSA at the elementary, middle school, and high school levels in various leadership roles. Over the years, I've worked closely with both Allison Edelman, the current president of the JT Joint PTA Council, and Eileen Ginkle, the vice president. Both of these women are amazing leaders who have dedicated long hours of their time to benefit our schools and all of our children. Simply put, they are some of the most positive, hardworking, honest, and responsible people that I know. They generously give of their time without fanfare. And like many people who make difficult things look easy, it is often about the proper recognition of time, effort, and the dedication that it takes to serve our community so well. Thus, knowing the high degree of integrity with which both Allison and Aileen conduct themselves, it was incredibly disheartening to hear Mr. Perlman's remarks the last BOE meeting that questioned the ability of the Joint PTA Council leadership to quote fairly and impartially host a meet the candidate event. I can say without hesitation that it is my firm belief that there can be no question that both Allison and Eileen have always acted in accordance with the utmost propriety. Their individual exercise of their First Amendment rights cannot and should not be twisted and misconstrued and cast as improper behavior when in fact they did nothing wrong.
Yep. Hi, my name is Hiram Kepler. I was a PTA father when there were none. I was a PTA liaison to the school board. I was a school board member. My kids graduated in 2007 and 2009, and I've been coming to meetings for about 26 years now. Just a couple of quick comments on scheduling. There's nothing a teacher hates more than students who come late to class, so I totally support the rejection of that being an okay solution to scheduling. It's amazing how things go in cycles. My first week on the school board, we extended the elementary school day by 24 minutes. The teachers joined in, they said we needed it. There was no pay increase, it was a community decision. And that 24 minutes, I'm sure as parents whose kids have been in elementary, middle, and high school, 24 minutes a day on an annual basis is obviously one of the reasons for the great success of our school district. I'd like to echo some of the things that, is it Mrs. Mermelstein? One of the things I'd like to echo the most of is, in terms of civility, I think we need civility not just here in the public, but we need it in private. It can't just be show up at a meeting and smile. It can't be. I saw an email this week. I saw an email that I don't want to read it, but it was incredibly destructive from a school board member to a PTA council member that would never pass in any country in the world as a civil email about a particular person. Now, the 5 of you, this is an incredibly tough job. It's an incredibly tough job. For some reason, many of you think that this particular year or this particular sequence has been overly animus. I'm going to read an email from a board president from January 9th, 2004, where I was one of these 5 people. And this came from the board president. Dear all, here's a list of the ground rules mutually agreed upon our recent workshop. We will allow past events to remain in the past unless another incident occurs. No harassment by any board member to any other board member will be tolerated. No repercussions will be held against any staff member by way of allegiance to any board member. Boundaries of civility. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I'm sure most of you know that is the golden rule. There's a platinum rule. Treat others as they would like to be treated. If one board member has a problem with another, the problem needs to be made known and addressed within the entire board, all present. No yelling, high volume voices. Address only pertinent board business without any personal agendas. Any menacing behavior, standing, looming, grabbing, poking, throwing objects will not be tolerated. No emphatic finger pointing. No goading, taunting, negative body language. Now listen to this one. No imprisoning. No fabrication of events. Thanks, and we look forward to your participation. The point of my reading this today is that for some reason, everybody thinks this job is easy. 5 people with 5 different views, with 5 different chemistries, with 5 different backgrounds, with 5 different experiences. I don't think we need them all to be friends with each other. That's not the role. This is a hard job. They're running $100 and some odd million business, which is in second place to making sure your kids get to school safe and get home safe every day. Okay? And again, my point is, here this is 20 years later, and a lot of you here think the toughness, the uncomfortableness of board proceedings is new. It's not new. It's not new. But again, I certainly support Mrs. Mermelstein's position and ask that it not just be done in public, but be done in your homes, on the streets, in the supermarkets. And again, we don't live in a perfect world. If all 5 of these people agreed on everything, we go to AI. We go to AI. We don't need them. So don't expect them to agree on everything. We make hard decisions. And we ought to respect, even if we might not particularly compliment or enjoy, all the back and forth. Mr. Feigman, I go along with you on your change.org. However, you have to add that we don't start school till after Labor Day.
All right, do you have anything?
I guess I'll be thankful.
Yeah, I would like to answer
I just wanted to know, were people throwing things at me?
I'm just, again, I haven't seen anything thrown here. I haven't seen any imprisoning. But I will tell you, the language of that message was because there were perceptions in that room that there was imprisoning and that there was throwing.
If there are no more comments from the audience, I believe we do not have any emails to the BOE. We're going to move on at this time. Oh, we do?
We do not.
No, we do not, okay. We're going to move on to unfinished business at this time. Adoption of board policy number 1240, enforcement of policies, resignation, and filling vacancies. Be it resolved that the Board of Education adopts the following policies. Do I have a motion? Jen, second? Sam? Any discussion?
Yes. This was a policy that we started working on last month after the successful completion of civility and ethics. As I mentioned last month, I had a bunch of questions that I was trying to sort of verbalize, but we went ahead and passed the first reading. So I apologize. There should a bunch of questions for Mr. Powers, hopefully getting, just sort of trying to, before I get to the meat of the policy, I just want to understand the mechanics, because as Mrs. Vartanoff suggested at the last meeting, we need a formal process. So Mr. Powers, superintendent receives a complaint, he brings it to the board. You said we're going to raise it at the next executive session. However, the board's not in any position at that first executive session to decide on remedies A through D. It knows nothing. So, it will decide what if any, so quote, it will decide what if any further action is to be taken at that time, end quote, can only refer to whether or not to start an investigation at that first executive session. Is that correct?
Sure, one of the options, sir, is that you can take that first exec session, saying we need to have further discussion, and we need to do a further investigation. You need not commit to exactly what you're going to do. So if there's just bare minimum information that comes to you, 10% of the case, you can certainly say, we need more information, we'll see you next month, gather some information so we can make an informed decision on the policy.
Sure, but I guess at the last meeting you said, no, we were gonna look to A through D. So pretty much in any first meeting on this, there's no way we can go to A through D because we haven't gotten any facts. All we know is we've gotten a complaint. We haven't heard anything on the other side at that point.
Well, I don't think you can say there's never a circumstance.
In most every circumstance. Yes, absent someone shooting someone in the middle of the boardroom, it's sort of like everybody sees it, all you're gonna have is a complaint, you're not gonna know anything other than what's included in that complaint. And I ask that because how do we decide whether and how a complaint is worth investigating? Because as we've known over the past few months, every time we have an issue, you've told us that the board can't hear any information about the issue because it will then prejudice us making a final decision. So that we need to be presented with all the information at once whatever process has been completed. So essentially, the superintendent's going to receive the complaint, bring it to the board's going to hear it. Who's giving it guidance on whether or not it's an investigation run by you? Because, at the February meeting, you said, Ingerman can remain involved in simple matters, but complicated claims must be handled by outside counsel. And so basically, I just want to make sure I'm clear on the process, because after listening to the recording from last month, I was confused.
So if an issue comes to Hank, he has a meeting with the Board of Education in executive session. If it concerns a staff member, we're certainly in a position to do that investigation for you. However, if it's someone on the dais here, a board member, that's what we have to say. We have to step back, because we represent the entirety of the board. We can never do an investigation against an individual board member. So we have to step out of it. So when something comes to Mr. Grishman's attention, he can bring it to executive session. You then say, Mr. Powers, look at the following information, come back to us when you've completed the investigation so we can make an informed decision. So what I would say to you, sir, similar to what happened tonight, you have something new that hits the radar screen, you direct me to look into it, I come back to you with information, and then you make a decision at that point. The worst thing you can do, whether it's applying this policy or any other policy, would be to make an uninformed, hasty decision. So have the process run in your favor, gather the appropriate information, come back to you. And part of this policy also says that if there is a board member that could potentially be the subject of a complaint, have that person have the opportunity to appear before the board as well. You can't make a decision unless you have sufficient facts to do so.
Correct. So from watching the video from last month, it seemed as if that first executive session, the board was deciding A through D. Clearly, that will, in most cases, not be the matter. So then the second part is, in there you put that the board member is able to address the other board members before any action is taken. Is starting an investigation an action, at which point, so at that first executive session, is the target board member addressing the other board members about the action? Or does that not count as an action?
I don't think that counts as an action. I think before you make a final decision under 1A through D, that person should be afforded the
I
opportunity.
have no problem with the answer, I'm just trying to clarify. Perfect, thank you. So the next is urgency. I know last month we had a quick conversation. You believe that it's putting in there that at the next executive session, and as Dr. Balachandar, and I might disagree a little bit, but she said, oh, if we have an urgent matter that we need to get together quickly on, we'll just do that. I disagree, we do have trouble scheduling meetings a lot of times, but you're saying just leave it in there as the next executive session and we're covered from that. Selecting an outside investigator, not to bring up a sensitive topic from 7 months ago, but at the stage of the last big board member investigation that we did, I'm not sure who the target was, but for each stage you recommended one attorney. And unfortunately, both of them had undisclosed prior or existing relationships with the superintendent. I would love to have some language in there that talks about if we are hiring an outside investigator, that first of all, Ingerman Smith recommends at least 2, and 2 that don't have any perceived or actual independence issues.
I think the issue was there was some kind of conflict with the superintendent knowing the prior attorneys. I think that was addressed, and that was something that happened 25, 30 years ago. There was absolutely no conflict at all. What we could do is, I have no problem giving you choice A, B, or C, no problem at all. And then we have to turn to that person or that law firm and say, do you have any perceived conflict when the charges being presented to you to this? That would be that.
Is there any benefit to, because given our new civilian ethics policy, I wouldn't be surprised if the number of complaints increases. Does it make any, well, I guess we can deal with that next thing at the next point. One more issue before we get into the meat of the policy. In terms of confidentiality, it says it's going to remain confidential. One of my concerns is that complainants, I think, typically do maintain confidentiality. However, in that last investigation, the complainant's name was made public. Was there a reason for that?
Wait, hold on one second, hold on.
Is my microphone's bad, or, oh,
I'm trying to get slack.
Yeah, it's tape.
You don't want to get slack.
You call it. Is that up?
Yeah.
Hey, you're fine.
You can see that question again.
of course. In here it talks about how the process is going to remain confidential. Typically, in many cases like this, the identity of the person filing the complaint remains confidential. In the last matter, that was not the case. Was there a particular reason? Because I wouldn't want to discourage people from filing complaints if their name's going to be public.
Sure, so we keep it confidential. If a FOIA request comes in, we again keep it as confidential as possible. You can also say to a potential complainant, do you want your name to be disclosed? We give them some deference as to, if they have no problem with having their name in a report, we have the ability pursuant to FOIA to allow that to be disclosed. So, anytime there's an investigation, whether it's a criminal matter, education matter, we want to protect the identity of the complainant in the case to the utmost extent. If someone does not have any opposition to having the name out there, you can consider that in terms of whether you're going to disclose their name.
Got it. Last point before we jump into the meat. Based on our new policy 1350, quote, I believe this is how it reads, but I haven't seen it because it's not in the manual. A board member must recuse themselves in any decision, process, and or vote in which the board member's impartiality might be reasonably and appropriately questioned. Does that inherently mean that if a board member files a complaint against another board member, both board members must recuse themselves from this process?
I don't think so.
Fair enough, thank you. So now, jumping into the meat of the, and this is really for the protection of the district, not looking to reopen anything, but what I am looking to do is minimize open-ended investigations that the district can't afford in time or money. So really, there's three key areas in this policy I'd love you to address. One is establishing a scope for any investigation, two, monitoring that investigation, and three, receiving a report that is focused on actual findings. So taking those in order, at our last meeting, you told Mrs. Vartnoff you told the board, based on Mrs. Vartnoff's questions, unwise to set a time constraint on any investigation. Fine. But should not the board set an appropriate scope for such investigation, since, as you said, Ingram and Smith has stepped out, so they're not able to monitor the investigation. The administration has stepped out, they're not able to monitor the investigation. So I would hate this to turn into a Whitewater or Valerie Plume affair every time we have an investigation where the end result has nothing to do with the incident or the complainant, and the investigator just keeps running up bills and sucking up time. So isn't it wise to put in here that the board must set a scope for that investigation, which they did not do in the last investigation? Okay.
The board has the discretion to set scope, but I will say this, having been through hundreds of investigations, criminal, educational settings, civil settings, you go where the evidence takes you. If during the course of an investigation, you come to learn of something that needs to be pursued, you have to pursue it. And if the scope is so confined that it doesn't allow you to go to that extent, the investigator has to come back to the board and say, I've uncovered something that's really disturbing, I need to go further.
And when we were going to get to my second point, absolutely, I think that is very important to have. So I fully accept your point, and was going to recommend that in the second portion where we were talking about the investigation and monitoring it. But, so you do believe that setting a scope for an investigation where the board says, look, here's what the complaint says, this is what you want, we want you to investigate. If there's something else that comes up, you should feel free to come back to the board to explain the reason for that. And the reason I bring this up, and again, you know, we ended up with an investigation that bounced from an unsubstantiated claim of harassment to an unfound claim of discrimination, to the only finding being there were raised voices and belittling comments among board members. That was the actual punishable offense. So I think setting a scope is something that is important to what we're trying to do here. So as long as you're on board with that, I'm happy to move on to the part you were just talking about.
Well, I don't think it's fair to say, am I on board with it? This is your policy. You're asking me, can you do these things? It's your policy, it's not my policy. If you want to set a scope, you can set a scope. I don't weigh in on whether or not it should be finite or should be broad. I will say this, if I'm assigned to investigate a matter, whether it's here or elsewhere, I dig into the evidence, I go where the evidence takes me. Then I come back to the board with a recommendation for you. If you say to me, you know, Chris, go out and do your thing, and, you know, confine it to 40, 50 hours, that's as far as I go, but I will then say to you, it's accomplished at this point, I have everything I need to do in terms of giving you the facts you need to make decisions. If it's only half complete, I'll come back to you and say, you need to do some more digging. And that's where you go. I think it's really a mistake to say it's going to be just this one issue and don't go beyond the confines of that. I think that's a problem, I do.
100%, but setting some type of initial scope of an investigation, I thought you said was wise, provided that it's manageable. Because otherwise you have a process where you don't know where it ends, you don't know what it costs, and the board, to some extent, and thereby the district, is left in the dark as to how that process is progressing.
I think when you hire outside counsel to investigate something, you give them a directive as to what you need to be looked into. That is the scope that you can provide to outside counsel or an outside investigator to do it for you. If that investigator comes to learn that you've given me this charge, this responsibility, I've uncovered some additional things, then I would say to that investigator, if it was me, I'd come back to you saying, uncovered something else we need to expand. And I think we're on the same page.
I think we are. And I'm not saying the board's going to adopt it. I'm just trying to make sure from a legal counsel standpoint, the board adopted some part of this policy that says the board will establish a scope for the investigation up front, and that then the investigator can come back. Because as I said, the report or the study or the investigation that we did, any finding related nothing to do with the complainant, it had to do with board members. And so to me, that was a little far afield of what any normal scope. Now, could the investigator have come back and said, look, I haven't found anything there, but let's go forward and do something else. Okay, I think we're on the same page for me to be able to discuss this with other board members. I think this policy needs to have some type of monitoring mechanism. There were no updates offered to the board, and then all was received. When after 4 months I said I hadn't been interviewed, board members were shocked. that interview to happen shortly thereafter. Otherwise, who knows how long it would have taken. What type of monitoring procedure have you seen in policies like this, where the board is required to get periodic updates or any type of information to make sure that this doesn't drag on and we can reach a reasonably timed solution?
I think it's a mistake to provide to the ultimate decider of a fact pattern piecemeal information. I think it's really important to direct the investigator to do his or her job and to come back to you when the substantial portion of the investigation is completed. I think that's really important. And I would then say, if the investigation leads to something new, that investigator comes back to you and says, do you want me to go into these additional areas? But to set like a time frame where everything has to be done, I think that's a problem.
I'm not talking about a time frame. I'm talking about an update, meaning sort of like what you do in discovery. I'm going to have 10 witnesses. I've done 3 witnesses. I've done 6 witnesses. I've done 9 witnesses. I've completed my witnesses. Anything as simple like that, because as I said, just using an example from real life, my interview didn't take place for, after 4 months, I was like, what's going on? And board members were reasonably surprised that took that long. No one knew that. Everyone assumed that this process is much further along. So all I'm saying is not finding a fact, not information, simply saying, look, this is my work process. This is what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to complete X number of interviews. At the end of month 1, I've completed 0. At the end of month 2, I've done all of them. This is what my time frame is. This is when I expect to deliver my findings to you. Because that goalpost kept moving, no one knew it was moving, and that's what you end up with.
You have the ability to say to the investigator, can you give us a brief update procedurally as to how far you've been able to move forward with the investigation? I do think it's a mistake to have an investigator come to you in the 3rd inning of a 9-inning game to give you a recommendation. I think that's really
I'm not saying that, I'm saying simply a process or progress update.
Okay, you can have that as parameters when you're hiring someone to enforce this policy. That's up to you. If you're asking me whether it's legally required, the answer is no. Practically, probably a good idea, but I would never recommend having an investigator come to you with a partial recommendation based on investigation has not been completed.
So I think, again, nothing for the board to adopt, because I'll talk about it with the other board members, but in terms of putting some type of progress update, no information, but I think we ended up on the same page. And then finally, just to confirm, in terms of, as part of that process, updating the scope, because I do believe that is very important, and you might ask why, and I would say because in the last investigation, after a lengthy and costly investigation, in the report it stated there existed no prima facie case for a discrimination claim. Now, prima facie case, and I'm not the lawyer, and if Mrs. Citron was here, she would be able to help me. That basically means there's no evidence. And what the investigator then said on page 37 was, she has not suffered any adverse employment action such as termination of employment or demotion evidenced by a decrease in salary, less distinguishable title, material loss of benefits, or significantly diminished material responsibilities. Nothing had changed. If that fact had been presented to the board, I don't believe they would have expanded the scope because to include that, because there was no reason to expand the scope, because there was no damage.
Sir, I think you're selecting parts of the report that...
Of course I am.
They're, of course, taken in the light most favorable to that board member. There were other recommendations, which frankly, I'm not going to get into at this point.
I'm not talking about recommendations, I'm talking about scope.
Let me finish, please. Consistent with Ira said before, that has been addressed, and now we're bringing up at a public board meeting as to process. I will give you a recommendation process. Legally, you're not required to set parameters. Practically, probably a good idea. But if you're asking me now to comment on the entirety of that report, what was beneficial, what was hurtful to that board member, I'm not going to do that here. That is water under the bridge that has been addressed by outside counsel. They made certain recommendations to you. But for you to say from the dais that it was some kind of a whitewashing, that nothing ever happened, I don't think that's fair.
I didn't say whitewash, I was simply talking about updating scope, that there needs to be a reason to update the scope. And that's all I was, in that last statement, all I was doing was referring to, there was an expansion of the scope of an investigation when there was no basis. Based on the report, there was no basis. I take your point, we can move on. I don't want to drone on this. I've been accused of being droning on. Okay, last part of this is report. I believe this policy should state that, or require, that any reports should be limited to findings of fact. We have seen various reports that come out where there's a whole bunch of ancillary, unrelated, unsubstantiated, uncorroborated information that's put out there that has absolutely nothing to do with the facts. And I'm trying to understand, why would a district ever want such a report so that, why would an investor include unrelated information? So it strikes me as a very simple part of this policy that, you know, the investigator should be instructed to put together a finding of fact, not a list of her interviews or their interviews, where you just go through stuff and say, okay, I'm gonna throw this in there. It's hearsay, but I'm gonna put it in there. It's unrelated to what we're talking about, but I'm gonna put it in there. Why would someone want that? Why would the district want that?
Because basically what you're then doing to the investigator, you're relegating the investigator to being a scribe, which is they're just gonna talk to people are gonna say this happened, that happened, then the investigator would present all this to the board. That is not a thorough investigation. Investigations are the following: fact finding, which is you drill down, you speak to people, you look at evidence, you look at images, you piece together all kinds of forensic information. That's step one. Step two is you then, in a formulaic basis, determine whether or not the elements of whether it's a crime or elements of a violation of board policy have occurred. And then you get to the third part, which is knowing the facts, knowing the formula, make a recommendation in your capacity as an investigator to what the board should do. Ultimately, it's up to the board. The investigator has absolutely no authority to make these decisions, but it's part of their charge, their responsibility to investigate, to know what the formula is, to know whether there's a violation of policy, and then to provide recommendations to the board. Then the board decides with that information.
And I agree with you entirely, and what I'm saying is the report that we received, and there's another board member who's complained about the same thing, that the lawyer acted as a scribe and basically wrote down everything they heard without doing any investigation, and including unrelated, I'm just gonna give you an example, and I'm not trying to open it up, I'm simply reading what was there. The complainant complained that Mr. Perlman spoke negatively about her with respect to the district website to a particular community member. Mr. Perlman denied speaking about this to the community member. I did not seek to interview the particular community member because the interaction, as alleged, did not rise to the level of violation of district policy or constitute a hostile work environment. Given that the investigator themselves is saying that this is completely immaterial, why would the board want something like that included in a report? Wouldn't it only want findings of fact?
Well, it seems like she did exactly what I was recommending, which is she did the fact finding, she applied the policy, and gave you a recommendation. That's what it sounds like she did.
So why would she put that paragraph in there? What
You have to ask her.
No, I'm asking what I'm saying. So you as an investigator, you say you investigate. Why would they put that paragraph in there?
We're getting way off topic here.
No, we're not, because
We're talking about policy.
guys, we're doing 10 minutes on a policy that I'm trying to stop us from spending
We've been
$60,000.
talking for 35 minutes.
No, we haven't. Okay, then, Mr. Powers, I'm gonna ask you one final question. Okay, you've said that you don't know why. And look, I don't need to do, like, you complained before when we talked about the other incidents in public. I feel the need to do this in public too, and this is it. You talked before about Ingram and Smith stepping back and not being involved in this process. Did your firm review this report before it was delivered to the board?
Sir, this was a Gerstier report. I have absolutely no say in this report.
Okay.
I have no say.
Okay, Mr. Powers, can you give me 1 second, please?
You're president, you're not involved. Here.
Unless it's relevant to the policy.
This is completely relevant to the policy.
We've gotten into the weeds here, folks, sorry.
Are we not talking about policy? Either we're accepting or not.
It absolutely is.
Well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that, but given that we've already discussed this extensively at the last visit.
Mr. Powers, I've asked Dr. Balachandra, vote on what? We haven't.
We should not be interrupting a board member. This is against civility, guys. Let him speak. Right?
Mr.
Everyone's
Powers,
interrupting him.
you just said that you had nothing to do with the report.
It doesn't matter. There's no time limit. There's no time limit.
Okay, so here's where we are.
Nobody has been able to get a word in.
We have a policy here, which is 1240. Last February, last month, we discussed it, we went back, we listened to the tape, and we came up with what we thought the board agreed to. You've now asked me a series of questions which somehow has diverged into some kind of an investigation that apparently concerned you, sir. That is something that Gercio's office did. They make their decisions. I don't weigh in on whether I agree or disagree with it. That is their call. And that is something that you have to know, that investigators reach different conclusions for different reasons. Why we're going over this now, I have absolutely no idea. What we're trying to do is, consistent with what Ira said, to act civilly, to get along with each other. Now, this has turned into almost like a confrontation. I just don't get it. I don't understand what you're trying to do, sir.
I'll tell you in 2 seconds. One, I was trying to get through a bunch of questions very quickly because I'd like to make this policy so that it does not act as a burden on this district. That's first of all. Second of all, okay, and I don't feel I was being confrontational. If I was, I apologize. I'm simply trying, to the benefit of the audience who is impatient, to get to the bottom of how this policy works. And the last thing I'm going to say is, and it goes back to what you just said, I'm looking at your invoices. You reviewed the policy. You reviewed the report, I'm sorry.
I don't change the report, it's her report. I read these reports, of course I do. I don't call up Gercio's office and say, do this. I stay out of it.
Mr. Powers.
This seems better suited for a personal conversation.
No, this isn't exact, I would like, afterwards, I would like to schedule the executives afterwards.
I don't know how I'm related on the computer, but can I say something?
In 1 second, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe Mr. Powers has properly represented what went on.
Sorry. If Gercio's, let me be heard, please.
Into this policy, you're bringing up a personal situation that happened in the past. We're doing a policy so we know how to have recourse for something that happens in the future. You're bringing up something in the past that's over and done. You're renegotiating and rehashing something that happened in the past, and you're trying to make defenses for yourself in public now. That's over and done, and you'd like to move on.
I agree.
And it's not relevant. The whole conversation is not relevant.
It is.
There are a lot of things that I'm still talking. There are a lot of things that we weren't happy with the investigation. It went on way too long. We had no control over that. And a lot of people weren't happy with her findings. And you see, they came out better for you than you expected, and you're still, fighting about the whole thing. I'd like to move to a vote to adopt this policy so we can move on and have a policy that works.
Mrs. Citron, I was just proposing things that address all your concerns about running on too long. That was what I was getting at initially with Mr. Powers in terms of setting up a monitoring process and setting up a scope. And until I understood where legal counsel came out on those issues, I couldn't propose that those changes get made. You're proposing to do this without it. And by the way,
I'd like to move to vote on
okay, and all I was saying was I was using those examples from that report as an example, since all the other ones we have are confidential.
This is for the future. I call the question. Let's vote.
So you don't want to add, so no one wants to add a scope, a mandate to require a
Nobody wants
scope?
to make any changes, but I don't want to make any changes. If anyone else wants to.
Okay, then I have one simple change, which I think has to change. In the third paragraph, in the paragraph 6.
Question, it means you move to a vote.
Okay, fine, just let her move to a vote, that's fine. Okay, call the question.
I did.
Okay, no, we have to vote on calling the question. We have to vote on calling the question.
All in favor of calling the question?
I vote yes.
All opposed?
Motion fails. Good, so now we can keep talking.
Excuse me, motion 3-2.
I believe to call the question requires a 2/3 majority. Under Robert's Rules of Order requires a 2/3 majority. We only have a 60%. I'm happy if someone can pull out the book. I simply want to make one point, because it's a word here that in paragraph 6, I mean, again, all I wanted to do was make a point, and we're trying to rush through a policy for reasons I don't understand.
Sam, I'm not sure that, we're not rushing it. We spent a fair amount of time on this policy at the last meeting, as well as at this meeting. I think even if it does take a majority of the board to call the question, does it not mean anything that the majority of us in this meeting right now, or 3 out of the 5 of us, have felt that we've sufficiently hashed out this policy and are ready to move to a vote?
It is.
And you haven't talked about stuff about your own issue. Yeah. It's not relevant to the policy.
Guys, you know what? This is what I'm talking about. This is why the policy needs to be examined, because again, you're just saying, oh, we have a majority, we're gonna go and do this.
I'm not saying that just because we have a majority, I'm just saying we've already extensively went over this policy, both at the last meeting as well as today. So if nobody has anything new about the material
I
within
do.
this policy, Jen, I think you said you had something you wanted to say.
But I want one word,
Then I think.
antagonistic needs to come out in number 6. Antagonistic has to come out, actively opposing something or someone. If you're telling me you can't actively oppose a policy or a comment, how is that ever gonna be it? And I've been called antagonistic by members of this board, a member of the board, so, I mean, I would like to see the word come out. That's all I'm asking,
I like
and
the
then I'm
word
done.
personally, I think there's no place for anybody to antagonize anybody.
Okay, but, and I agree with you, except for the fact that you look up the definition, Dr. Fresto, it's not, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You look up the definition, it says actively oppose. How can you prevent someone from actively opposing something?
Which definition are you using?
Google it, whatever definition you
Well,
want to
there's
use.
multiple definitions.
I understand, it's the first ones I pull up.
The definition, language works. Behavior can be antagonistic.
I would just like to say something. I mean, this is completely uncivil with the way that, this is a perfect example. We're board members. If we have, if a board member wants to speak, Jill, maybe tomorrow you're gonna wanna speak for 10 minutes, and should we all shut you down? It's not right, guys. So let the person speak, then you guys can all vote. It's not, and the constant chatter that I hear from the audience with, this is ridiculous, this is that, guys, we're running a board meeting, okay? This is not the school play, okay? So you guys gotta let us do our job. It's wrong what you guys are doing. So if we're talking about civility, it has to come from both sides of the room. This is just wrong.
It's not just 10 minutes.
It doesn't matter, there's no
That's
time
what he
limit.
said, just clarify.
It could be 20 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, it could be 40 minutes, there's no time limit. This is important. This is about the removal of a board member. This is an important policy.
Well, hopefully this will never come up again.
I'm sorry?
I said, hopefully we won't need this.
I hope so too, but don't you think it's an important policy that it deserves the time?
The policy works, it was 2 different law firms worked on this.
I believe that Mr. Perlman was just talking about his own experience to try to
He
make the
was talking
policy
about
better.
a past event that wasn't.
His own experience with an investigation to make the policy better, that's all.
Are we ready to vote on the policy?
We called the question, it failed.
Okay, but we still can move to vote.
Just getting back, just in the interest of being fair, Sam, and listening to everything you've said, Collins defines antagonism as showing hatred or dislike towards someone or something. So,
I agree with the hatred. Dislike is I dislike this policy as it's written. But if we want to agree, and for someone to go back and look, that we're talking about hatred and animus, and Mr. Duvelis, you proposed the word that I heard, I don't remember what it was though. Hostile. Yes, as long as we're talking about that, I have no issue. But again, as you said, there's many definitions for it. Some of them are quite innocuous.
in the
I
interest of,
did say antagonism is hostile, though, I didn't propose hostile.
oh, I'm sorry, so you wanna change it to hostility? I mean, in the interest of moving
Well,
this
I
along.
think antagonistic works.
I mean, I can do either, to tell you the truth, I know what the spirit of this is. Again, you know, if it's gonna build consensus and we can move on, vote on this and move on to something more important.
I mean, just the fact to change one word is not productive use of time when they mean it close to the same thing.
Jill-
It's the spirit of it, it's the same spirit, and it's being nitpicky.
Yeah, the spirit of this room leaves a lot to be desired right now, so I just wanna get this done.
Right, so let's move to vote on the policy as is.
We can't. The motion failed, Mrs.
Okay,
Sexton.
but that doesn't mean that we can't all agree to vote on it now.
I think she's saying the discussion is over.
I'm done discussing.
I'm done discussing it. I mean, I heard Dr. Foresto say he's happy to change the word. You don't want to change the word, leave the word.
It's, to be honest with you, Sam, it makes no difference. If it's important to you, you wanna change it to hostility,
No,
that's,
it's like, this is being antagonistic
I'm not being
by someone,
antagonistic, I'm trying to be helpful.
No, not you.
Yeah.
First of all, you're always being helpful, and I appreciate that. And as I said, my tone was only clipped because I was trying to get through what I thought was a number of points very, very quickly, and I think this policy is set up for a disaster both time-wise and money-wise, and that's why I was spending the 25 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was. What's more concerning to me is the discussion after this meeting about Mr. Powers' statement about not being involved in the report that Gershia prepared and having stepped out. Because as I demonstrated to Dr. Balachandra, that was not the case.
You know something? Now that, at this point.
That we can talk about it afterwards, absolutely.
We're gonna talk about it, but we're gonna get it straight. That's fine. Right now, sir, you're questioning my integrity. And as much as I disagree with that report, I didn't touch one word. It may have been completely wrong. She did her analysis, she gave recommendations to the board. And I exercised my professional responsibility, stayed away from any kind of decisions, and we landed where we did.
Are we ready to vote now?
Sure, Mrs. Citron, you can have it. So make a motion to call the question.
No, we don't have to call the question every time we vote on a policy. Are we ready to vote?
You actually do have to call the question when there's a debate that needs to be closed.
No, after we have a discussion, we say, are we ready to vote? Is there any further discussion?
That we do out of expediency. That's actually not the way it's supposed
We
to
do not
work.
call the question every time we vote on a matter.
Agreed, we do it out of expediency, out of practice, but in technicality, we do need to.
Technicalities aside, I think at this time it's apparent we're done discussing this, so let's move to a vote.
The last motion to close it failed. We need to redo the vote to close the discussion. It'll take 1 second.
All right, all in favor of calling the question? Okay, question has been called.
for the policy.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of the policy as it stands?
Jill?
Jill, you're not connected.
We lost her.
Jill?
Zoom expired. Nope, not that.
Someone pull the plug.
All in favor?
Everybody knows.
All in favor?
This is Roy's back.
Yes.
Okay, so all opposed? Four to one. I voted for it.
Okay, thank you.
Moving along, new business.
Trustee Ann voted no?
Yes.
Acceptance of revised corrective action plan. Be it resolved that the Board of Education acknowledges receipt of the school district's corrective action plan and accepts such for the year ending June 30th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Jen, second.
I second.
Jill? Any discussion?
Why is this 5 months after?
So with the corrective action plan, the State Education Department mandates that you put a date in, even though it was already taken care of before the auditors left, but there was no specific date in the original letter, so we just added a date of when it was rectified. Okay?
Yes.
All in favor?
I vote yes.
We're going to move the next three together into three intermunicipal agreements. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the attached 2024-25 intermunicipal agreement to offer maintenance and repair services in the Jericho Transportation Facility to the Port Washington, Herricks, and Franklin Square Union Free School Districts. Do I have a motion? Jen, second? Chris?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I vote yes.
Okay. Moving on to the federal single audit report dated June 30th, 2023, that the Board of Education acknowledges receipt of the federal single audit report of the school district's external auditor, Cullen and Danowski, LLP, for the year ending June 30th, 2023. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Jill, second? Jen, any discussion?
Have we received anything from Mr. Hall and Mr. Manuel certifying that these are type 2 renovations?
I don't know what you're talking about. This is the federal senior road.
I'm sorry, I'm ahead by one, I apologize.
It's okay.
All in favor?
I vote yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Just raise your hand.
Moving on, this is the SECRA, which stands for State Environmental Quality Review Act. This is the 2024-25 Capital Improvement Program Type 2 determination. In summary, dealing with the Canfield Phase 2 bathrooms, Jackson Elementary bathroom and auditorium, Seaman doors, frames, hardware, Jericho Junior Senior High School, the generators, and also bathroom construction, as well as district-wide plumbing upgrades. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby declares itself lead agency in connection with the requirements of the State Environment Quality Review Act. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education, after review of the proposed action, hereby declares that the projects are type 2 actions, which requires no further review under SECRA, and be it further resolved, the Board of Education hereby shall forward an official copy of this resolution to the New York State Education Department, together with a copy of the correspondence from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation in connection with its request for approval of the listed project from the New York State Education Department. Do I have a motion? Jen, second?
Second.
Sam, can you repeat the question?
Here we're saying that we're the experts, the board is saying that we're the Board of Education, after review of the proposed action, hereby declares that the projects are type 2 actions. That's under, be it further resolved the second bank. Do we have something that tells us that? That we're not,
Our architect, John Grillo, looked at the projects and wrote this for us that we are able to do this.
gotcha, he gave us something in writing, that's
100%.
Thank you.
All in favor?
I vote yes.
This is for proposition number 2, May 21st, 2024. This is the proposition that we've discussed at numerous meetings in the past. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. That the Board of Education hereby authorize the following proposition to be included on the ballot at its annual meeting on May 21st, 2024, as follows in the agenda packet, but also was presented to us in our prior meetings. Do I have a motion? Sam?
So,
Second?
second.
Chris? Any discussion? All in favor?
I vote yes.
Notice of annual meeting. Be it resolved that the Board of Education adopt the attached notice of annual meeting and election of board members for the Jericho UFSD Board of Education and for the Jericho Public Library trustees. Do I have a motion? Karen, second? Sam, any discussion? I actually had a question about this. I just wanted clarification with the part that discusses absentee votes. That part to me wasn't clear. It said if it's mailed back, it needs to be received 7 days prior, but if it was hand delivered, it can be submitted up to 1 day prior. Is it saying? Oh, sorry, Ben.
If someone is requesting an absentee ballot, not in person, they would have to request it at least 7 days in advance in order to mail it to them. But someone could come in the Monday before, the Friday before, in person, request the absentee ballot, and then hand it in at that point. So it's just a matter of, if it's gonna be mailed to someone, they have to request it at least 7 days, because you need that time for it to be mailed to that person, and time for that person to mail it back.
Okay.
You still look unclear.
Okay.
So,
But if that's the case, shouldn't it instead say if the ballot's delivered personally back to the office rather than just submitting it to?
no, if they're requesting the absentee ballot via US mail, they need to request that at least 7 days in advance, in order for them to get it in time, in order to fill it out. They could still,
7 days from, before the elections, or?
correct, if they're requesting it by mail. So, for example, they fill it out.
Electronically, you mean?
Well, no, we're not saying the ballot electronically.
No, the request, the application request
Correct.
electronically.
Correct.
They can do that, it has to be also 7 days electronic?
7 days, right?
Because
Has to be
there's
7
a,
days,
there's a,
that's so we can get it back to them
If
in
you-
Yes,
enough.
so-
If you're physically mailing it,
Yes.
so someone could walk
Right.
in literally the Monday before,
right,
fill out the application,
Right.
and
And
then
then get
here
it
and
out.
Get
and get it.
but if you're doing it remotely, whether
Well, the
it's-
application will be on the website.
the application's on the website, but actually, Divya, I'll let you finish, because I actually have a question about something regarding that.
I think I'm clear, but
There's two pieces.
The time
There's,
difference, it's a time difference, because if you're in person
no,
versus.
I'm clear on the time difference, but it's just, who's hand delivering to somebody about it?
someone could come,
Anyone.
Say if
someone
they
could
come
come
in.
into the office with
But
the,
in the office, it's not
Yeah.
delivered outside of the
no,
office.
No.
we're not getting to them with
So,
this.
That's just
the
the-
wording
I'm sorry.
was just not so clear to me, but okay,
Okay.
I'm crystal clear now.
Sorry, and I don't have it in front of me, but, yes, on the absentee ballot application, there's a address where you can mail it back, there's a fax number, and then there's also an email address, correct? But somewhere I also saw, it's listed somewhere on our website, I think on the absentee ballot, first of all, it's very outdated, it shows 2013. FYI, if somebody wants to look at that.
What shows 2013?
Like if you search absentee in the search bar on our website, it brings you to.
Every budget year we.
There's nothing
we
current.
upload.
That's not true. If you go to the
Yes.
24-25 budget year,
You have to go into the build,
Yeah.
business office, go to budget vote, it's
Okay,
all in there.
I didn't go through
Yeah.
navigation tool, I just did absentee, just search bar and a bunch of search options pop up, fine, no problem, I'll take a look, but there's somewhere that it says, and maybe I was looking at something that's outdated, that you're not allowed to submit electronically,
submit what electronically?
the application.
Michelle?
Yeah, so I've,
Are you allowed to email the application to?
I think it has to be brought back, I think I have to have it original.
So, right, because it says original, but we also provide an email address and a fax number, so then what's the point of the email address?
Well, I could email them an application.
No, to email it back, it shows the email address.
I have to double check, but I'm.
Yeah, so that was, I just wanted clarification.
We don't accept applications via email.
No,
Okay,
it has to be
so it
brought
has
back
to
in
be an
person.
original, handed, either once again mailed back, cause that's original also, or?
Right, it has to be
So no
original.
emails are accepted and no faxes are accepted?
Right.
Well, no, they
Okay.
could,
But they could
they
print
could
it.
They could
email the
print it,
district
Print
clerk
it, yes.
and request
But can
an
they sign it
absentee
and
ballot
scan it?
application.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, thank you.
All in favor?
I vote yes. Yes.
Do the budget, do the two budgets separately.
Adoption of budget for the 24-25 school year. Be it resolved that the Board of Education adopt the proposed budget of $139,846,284 for the 24-25 school year, and be it further resolved that the voting machines appropriately reflect that amount. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, Jill?
Yep.
Any discussion?
I know we've done this a lot, two questions. What's our TRS, imported contribution rate assumption for the coming year?
It's 10 and a quarter, I think.
Yeah, 10.2, I think was the last number I saw.
10.2 or 10.02?
10.2.
Okay.
The actual number may be 10.02, but we budgeted 10.2.
Got it. And then, Ms. Moreno, as you predicted, it's been a tough year for many school budgets. And, you know, Amityville clearly was in the news for their meaningful reduction in headcount, which fortunately, with 10% reduction in teachers, which fortunately we don't have to do it. There was an article where it said the superintendent there was talking about, raised similar issues to the ones you raised, health insurance and other benefits, security costs, state aid reductions. But then she also mentioned something, she said, quote, an unanticipated rise in charter school enrollment, close quote. To date, have charter schools had any impact on our finances, and how exactly did they hurt Amityville?
They have not had any impact on our finances. If a charter school is within your district boundaries, there are students that live within your district that would be entitled to go to that charter school, and the district is required to pay the non-resident tuition rate to that charter school to fund.
So charter schools are something the district would oppose, if nothing else, if nothing more than just to protect our teachers?
10 years ago, Sam, there was a proposal to open a charter school at SUNY Old Westbury, and we fought that vigorously.
I remember being there with you, sir. I think that's the first time we spoke over at the SUNY Old Westbury meeting. It was a very pleasant interaction
It
with
was
you.
one of our most civil, Sam.
So we thought that, so the district was against, the district's position, your position at the time, and the district's position at the time was against that, and we maintain that position at this point.
My position is that strongly, and I maintain that position.
As is mine.
As is mine, so that's great.
Any other questions?
No, just a statement of gratitude. I want to thank you and Ms. Stokel and Ms. Lee, and everyone else in your department for working tirelessly to put together a financially sound budget, and to all administrators and department heads who also gave us these presentations, just that gave us a better idea and understanding of where our money is being allotted and all the exciting things that are happening in our district and will be happening in our district. I know personally it's something I look forward to every year. Yes, I do look forward to the budget.
I appreciate it. We're finally back
All those who look forward to the budget presentations, please raise your hand. See Victor? There we go.
I didn't raise my hand.
All in favor?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Okay. Next is our public library budget for 24-25. Be it resolved that the Board of Education authorize the 24-25 Jericho Public Library proposed budget in the amount of $5,744,320, and the amount to be raised by taxes for the 2024-25 year to be $5,474,554 as approved by the Board of Trustees on March 12, 2024. And be it further resolved that the voting machines appropriately reflect these amounts. Do I have a motion? Sam, second. Chris?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I vote yes.
Could move 11, 12, and 13 together.
Together, yeah, okay. So, moving the next three stipulations together, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves special education stipulation ST 2024-05, 2024-06, and 2024-07 for the they're different years though.
Just
Okay.
approve the three stipulations.
Okay, for their respective years, school years, and directs the superintendent to sign such stipulation on behalf of the board. Do I have a motion? Jen? Second? Chris? Any discussion?
I vote yes. I'm
All
sorry.
in favor? Chris?
Yeah, sure.
All right, moving on to approval of schedules, we'll move all of them together and then have discussion. So, do I have a motion to move schedules A, ID 14164 through UID 14203? Jen, second.
Yeah, sure.
Sam, discussion?
Yeah, did you move every schedule, or which one? You did all the business affairs, or which one did you move?
I'm moving all of them.
Except the one we did
We
earlier that we
already
voted on.
approved the personnel.
Right, okay, so then, questions for Mr. Manuel, of course. Under business affairs, number 12, general fund warrant and certification, there was a bus maintenance by Nesco there. I thought we do our own bus maintenance. It was Nesco bus maintenance for about $250,000.
No, that's the buses we purchased.
Oh,
That wasn't, the name of the company is Nesco Maintenance.
there we go, thank you. And then the second thing is, under 14, revenue status report, ID 14189, and actually before, you have 14142 and 14189, both for Seneca Consulting. I think the Seneca Consulting was Wendell Energy, being a consultant for electric vehicles or
Yes,
something like that?
so Wendell companies will be doing, because the state has the mandate that beginning in 2027, any new bus we purchase must be zero emission. And by 2035, all of your buses must be zero emission.
Wait, no, on the schedules, it has two is listed as Seneca Consulting. I think the second one is not Seneca Consulting.
Oh, okay.
I think it's Wendell, so I don't know if that's.
It is Wendell.
Okay.
I was explaining what Wendell was.
No, I know, and I appreciate that. That was my second question.
Okay.
Now that you explained it, I'm saying it has to get changed on there.
Okay.
And then, one more. Oh, no, just as an aside, under the use of school facilities, one of the things that we did have, which we're approving, was the use of the school facility, the cafeteria for the annual varsity of JV wrestling team dinner, at which case one of our guests here tonight, Mr. Matthew Gassenheimer, put together a fabulous video for that dinner, so I'd like to thank him for the entertainment.
Victor, I had a question about the 14,189, for Senator Consultant, the second one, E286-2861, the one with regards to NYSERDA.
Yes.
Is this being offered to all school districts,
So-
or is it something just unique to us?
No, it's first come, first served for all districts. Wendell companies will do a study as far as what it would take over time to transform our bus depot where we park our buses and garage into zero emissions and providing enough chargers for those buses. And SED I know is going to be doing a survey at some point next school year, asking the districts where they are in the process, and this is the first step. So the net cost to the district, I believe, was about $12,000. That would be after NYSERDA pays Wendell directly for the other part of the fee.
Any other questions? All in favor?
I vote yes.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we adjourn, we have set our summer, July and August meetings. Our reorg meeting is set for July the 11th, and I believe everyone was good with that date. I think it was changed to the 9th to the 11th. No, it was changed to the 11th.
It was changed from the 11th to the 9th, but that was for me, and I'm fine if you want to put it back on.
I have July 9th.
I have July 9th.
Okay, I would ask that the board change that date for me, please.
To July
I can't do July 11th, not on this sort of thing, but there's no chance that I am.
Well, no, let's work a date that we're all available.
It can't be the 9th, is that?
I am out of town at a wedding July 7, 8, 9.
So why don't
I will be, the 10th,
figure it out?
the 10th works.
Tuesday the 10th?
Tuesday, yes.
Wednesday's the 10th. I'm free all 3 days. Listen, I'm trying to be easy.
July 10th, I will be my flight July 10th.
And he's lovely, he's hot. July 2nd. July 2nd. I know she would have
I have a conflict that
Third.
Third.
I can't do the 3rd.
July 1st.
July 1st is what? Monday? I can, is that the case?
It's tough, but that might be the only date that works.
I have something that I think on that night, so if it helps everybody.
So the reorg meeting is Monday, July 1. So
The first reorganized board here.
we are always the first.
First is something.
And then I would ask that we look at the August meeting date as well. Originally,
So as of now, it's the 8th.
So we're July 1st now?
yeah, July 1.
Now August?
And now let's look at August. It originally was the 8th.
8th.
Okay, so. August 8th.
So what do you think?
So August 8th is not good. How about Monday, August 9th? That whole week? Can we go to the 12th of August? Monday, August 12th?
I might,
August 12th, folks?
Questionable.
August 13th, wait, no, 13th, sorry.
Wait, it has to be a certain, Victor has
It
to.
has to be before the 15th, to set the tax levy.
It's my anniversary, so I missed my anniversary. Come to the school board meeting.
We have to meet. Big trouble. We can do a morning meeting.
What do you want to do?
We can do a morning meeting.
What day you want to do it? What day we think?
Morning of the 13th.
I can Tuesday the 13th, do the morning.
I don't think Divya can.
Oh, no, you got work.
As an English guy.
No, I still pop in.
Friday?
Yeah.
Friday morning, August 2nd?
Friday, August 2nd.
Seriously, is that doable?
Yes, it's gonna. Yeah. All right, Friday, August 2nd, 8:30 a.m. 9 a.m. Tell me. Guys,
Wow.
give me a time.
That's a good number.
8:30 a.m.
We're moving it from one sheet now?
Yeah, you just text me.
So we're now moving this Friday, August 2nd.
So therefore, I'd like to recommend a motion, please, at our reorg meeting, July 1, at 7:30, 7 or 7:30 p.m., guys? 7. At 7. July 1, 7 p.m. in the middle school library. And that the August 2nd tax levy is Friday, August the 2nd at 8:30 a.m.
We get bagels for the
We will get many bagels.
So I guess it's
Sorry, I'll make a motion to change our July 3rd meeting to July 1st at 7 p.m. and our August 8th meeting to August 2nd, Friday morning at 8:30 a.m.
Jen will do second.
Bagels and coffee for those.
Give me a second. Public.
All in favor? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Hey.
Second?
Mr. Powers wants to talk. I don't have what to say in this, sir. If you want to talk, we'll talk.
I would like to have it because I'm seeing you do something, and that's me, that's what I'm saying. I don't want you don't want to do it publicly, do it privately. You said, don't discuss it here publicly.
I'd like to go home, but if you guys have a Friday night.
Look, he needs 5 minutes, I can say.
All right, that's fine.
I gotta run. Another conference call.
Is there a motion, a second?
We have to take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to move to executive session?
Yeah, sure.
All in favor? Okay. I just wanted to wish everyone observing Easter a happy Easter, and anyone observing Ramadan